Stop scrolling for a second because what I'm about to tell you will completely change the way you think about attention, attraction, and influence. Most people have been lied to their entire lives. They've been told that you have to chase, you have to impress, you have to perform just to get noticed, just to be wanted, just to matter. And the truth, that is a trap. The more you chase, the more invisible you become. The more you try to prove yourself, the less people actually pay attention. What if I told you there's a secret almost nobody talks about, a principle so powerful that when you start applying it, 99.9% of younger women, the people you thought would never notice you, suddenly can't stop looking for you. You won't find this in books, social media posts, or motivational memes. You won't hear it from anyone around you because it goes against everything the world teaches. It's not about looks, money, or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about becoming magnetic from within. It's about mastering yourself, your energy, your presence, and your life. By the time this video ends, you will understand exactly what most people miss and why the chase always fails. You'll discover the hidden psychology behind attraction, the paradox that flips everything upside down, and the habits that make a man or woman unforgettable. You'll learn why the people you've been trying to impress will start coming to you instead, almost without effort, almost without realizing why. If you're ready to stop being invisible, to stop chasing, and to finally command the attention you deserve, then stay with me. This video isn't just another tip or trick. It's a revelation. Watch closely because your life and how people notice you will never be the same again. Let's start by confronting one of the biggest misconceptions most people have about attraction, about influence, about life itself. Too many of us have been conditioned to believe that if we want attention, if we want recognition, if we want to be noticed, we have to chase it. We think we have to work harder, try louder, make ourselves bigger in someone else's eyes. But here's the truth, and it's a truth most people will never admit to you. The harder you chase, the less you are seen. The more you try to impress, the less you actually attract. It's counterintuitive, but it's the law of life. Attention, genuine attention, is never earned by begging for it. It's never given to those who force it. The moment you start seeking approval, the moment you begin measuring your worth by how many people notice you, you have already lost your power. You might think you are making yourself attractive, making yourself desirable, but in reality, you are shrinking yourself. You are becoming predictable, available, and above all, dependent on external validation. And dependency is the fastest way to invisibility. People don't chase those who need them. They chase those who need no one. Consider for a moment the people you've noticed in your life. Who do you remember? Who do you feel drawn to without even trying? It's never the person who is desperate to be liked, desperate to be followed, desperate to be seen. It's the person who walks into the room and doesn't care if anyone notices. It's the person whose energy is magnetic because it comes from within, not from the applause of the crowd. That is the energy that pulls attention naturally. That is the energy that makes 99.9% of people, yes, the vast majority, look up, pay attention, and feel a sense of curiosity, a desire to know more. And this is why stopping the chase is so critical. When you stop seeking attention, when you stop performing for the world, something remarkable happens. You reclaim your autonomy. You reclaim your power. You start operating from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. Scarcity is when you are worried that if you don't get noticed, if you don't get liked, if you don't get the approval of someone else, then somehow your life will fall apart. Abundance is the realization that your life, your value, your energy exist independently of who notices it. Once you operate from that place of abundance, the dynamic shifts. People start noticing you because they sense it. They sense that you are unshakable, that you are grounded, that you are in control of your own life. This isn't just theory, it's psychology. Human beings are wired to respond to confidence, to autonomy, to self possession. When you are constantly seeking attention, your behavior signals insecurity. Your words, your actions, your energy all broadcast a subtle, almost unconscious plea: see me, approve of me, validate me. And most people, when they sense that energy, will either ignore it, take advantage of it, or dismiss it. People are drawn to strength, not neediness. They are drawn to certainty, not hesitation. They are drawn to individuals who have already chosen themselves, who have already committed to their own path, who have already decided that their worth does not depend on anyone else. So, what does this mean in practical terms? It means that every moment you spend trying to impress, trying to prove, trying to be noticed is a moment wasted. Every text you overthin. Every post you carefully curate, every attempt to force someone's attention is actually pushing them further away. Stop the chase, stop the performance. Stop measuring yourself against someone else's gaze. Instead, redirect that energy inward. Invest it in your growth, your purpose, your passions. Build skills, build confidence, build a life so compelling that attention is inevitable, not because you demand it, but because it cannot help but be drawn to you. And here's the paradox, the shocking part that most people will never understand. The more you stop seeking attention, the more attention comes to you. The less you care about being liked, the more people like you. The less you try to impress, the more impressive you become. It's the principle of self-possession, and it works universally. It's why some men and women, without trying, without chasing, without forcing, have an almost magnetic presence. They don't need approval, and the world cannot ignore them. That is the point. Stop seeking and watch how the world starts seeking you. Make no mistake, this requires courage. It's easier to perform, to chase, to beg for acknowledgement than it is to step back, focus on yourself, and resist the urge to constantly seek approval. It's uncomfortable to let go of the need to be noticed, to be liked, to be wanted. But the discomfort is temporary. The rewards are permanent. The freedom that comes from not needing anyone else's attention is the freedom that allows you to become the person who naturally commands attention. That is power, that is influence, that is irresistible presence. So today, I want you to ask yourself a simple question. Are you living your life to be noticed, or are you living your life to become someone worth noticing? Because when you choose the latter, everything changes. You stop chasing, you stop performing, you stop shrinking yourself for the sake of someone else's gaze, and suddenly the world starts paying attention, not because you demanded it, not because you begged for it, but because you became magnetic from within. Remember this, attention is a reflection of your value, not a measure of your worth. Stop seeking, start building. Start growing. Start living your life as if nobody is watching. And in doing so, you will discover a truth that is almost shocking in its simplicity. The moment you stop chasing, everything starts chasing you. Now that we've talked about the power of stopping the chase, let's move to something even more critical: investing in yourself. This is the foundation of everything: confidence, attraction, influence, and ultimately, the life you want. Too many people waste their time looking outward, trying to fix what's around them, hoping that someone or something will validate their worth. They chase A's approval, validation, attention, love, success, all from external sources. But here's the truth. that most will never tell you. The only person who can truly elevate you is yourself. Investing in yourself is not a cliche. It's not some motivational quote you plaster on your wall. It is the most practical, the most strategic, and yet the most radical thing you can do. Because when you focus on building yourself, when you focus on developing your skills, your mind, your body, your energy, you become someone who cannot be ignored. People notice energy, they notice competence, they notice presence, and none of that can be borrowed. You cannot fake it. You cannot outsource it. You cannot hope someone else will hand it to you. You have to cultivate it. Start with your mind. The mind is the engine of everything you do. If your thoughts are chaotic, unfocused, or weak, the rest of your life will mirror that. Most people are addicted to distraction, social media, entertainment, gossip, the endless noise of other people's lives. They consume you without giving anything back. Investing in your mind means reclaiming your attention. It means reading, learning, reflecting, questioning, and thinking deeply. It means developing insight, understanding human behavior, mastering the art of decision making, and becoming someone whose ideas and words carry weight. A man or woman who invests in their mind doesn't just react to the world, they shape it. Then comes your skills. Skills are tangible proof of your value. No one can take them away from you. Skills make you independent, capable, and confident. Too many people wait for opportunity to knock, but opportunity only knocks for those who are prepared. Invest in yourself by learning something new, mastering your craft, expanding your capabilities. Every skill you acquire adds layers to your presence. It adds substance to your character. It creates depth that people subconsciously recognize and are drawn toward. When you invest in your skills, you are building an invisible authority that commands respect and attention. Your body is equally important. You cannot underestimate the power of physical presence. The way you carry yourself, the energy you radiate, the discipline you show in taking care of yourself, it all communicates value before a word is spoken. Fitness is not just about aesthetics. It is about energy, vitality, resilience, and discipline. It is a reflection of your self-respect. When you invest in your body, you send a message to the world that you are serious, capable, and committed. And people respond to that. But there's something even deeper, your energy. This is the most overlooked and misunderstood aspect of investing in yourself. Energy is not about how much caffeine you drink or how busy your schedule is. Energy is the sum total of your emotional, mental, and spiritual state. People are drawn to those who have high energy, who can navigate life with composure, who radiate positivity, focus, and confidence. Energy cannot be faked and it cannot be borrowed. You cultivate energy by managing your inner world, your emotions, your thoughts, your habits, your mindset. When you invest in your energy, you become magnetic in a way that nothing superficial can replicate. Now, here's the part that shocks most people when they hear it. Investing in yourself is not selfish. It is the most generous act you can perform. Because the more you develop yourself, the more you contribute to the people and the world around you. You cannot give what you do not have. If you are distracted, weak, unfocused, insecure, or unskilled, you are limited in what you can offer others. But when you invest in yourself, everything you touch is elevated. Your presence, your influence, your contribution becomes more valuable. And this is the ultimate paradox. By focusing on yourself first, you actually become more attractive, more inspiring, and more impactful to others. So think carefully about where your time and energy go. Are you constantly giving yourself away to distractions, to validation, to chasing people or approval that may never come? Or are you investing in the one thing that will never fade? You, yourself. This requires discipline. This requires patience. It requires a willingness to prioritize long term growth over short term gratification. But the payoff is immense. The payoff is power, presence, and a life in which you are the center of your own destiny rather than a passenger in someone else's story. Here's a truth that will hit some people like a shock. The moment you fully commit to investing in yourself, the world starts noticing. People sense it instinctively. They sense the confidence, the competence, the energy, the presence that comes from someone who is fully committed to their own growth. That's when the dynamic changes. That's when attraction, respect, and admiration come naturally. Not because you forced it, not because you tried to impress, but because you became someone who cannot be ignored. So today, make a choice. Decide that you will stop outsourcing your value. Decide that you will stop waiting for recognition, attention, or validation from others. Decide that your life, your energy, your growth is worth investing in fully. Build your mind, build your skills, build your body, build your energy. Build a life that is magnetic, powerful, and unstoppable. When you do, the rest of the world will respond accordingly. Remember this: you cannot control others, but you can control yourself. You cannot control attention, but you can control your value. You cannot control approval, but you can control your growth. Invest in yourself first, and everything else will follow. Now that we've covered stopping the chase and investing in yourself, let's take it one step further. This is where most people stumble, and it's where the real power lies: becoming unpredictably valuable. When I say this, I don't mean being flashy or performing tricks to impress someone. I mean cultivating a life, a character, a presence that cannot be predicted, that cannot be confined to expectations, that cannot be reduced to routine. People are drawn not to the familiar, not to the average, but to the extraordinary, and the extraordinary is often unpredictable. Think about it. When someone is predictable, their value is limited. People know what to expect from them, and once the initial novelty fades, so does interest. But when you are unpredictable in the best sense, you create curiosity, you create fascination, you create a presence that cannot be ignored. This is not manipulation. This is the natural result of living a life that is full, that is authentic, that is rich with purpose, passion, and growth. When you are fully invested in your own life, your own goals, your own energy, the world cannot anticipate your moves, and that unpredictability becomes magnetic. Being unpredictably valuable is about depth. It's about cultivating qualities and experiences that go beyond surface level appearances. It's about mastering skills, developing intelligence, building emotional resilience, and nurturing a perspective that is rare. It's about becoming someone who has something to offer in every interaction, someone whose presence enriches the space around them. People instinctively sense this value. It cannot be faked and it cannot be rushed. It grows over time as you invest in yourself and live intentionally. This unpredictability comes from independence. When you are dependent on validation, approval, or the reactions of others, your behavior becomes predictable. You conform to expectations. You bend to please. But when you are independent financially, emotionally, mentally, you are free to be yourself, to make decisions that align with your principles, to live according to your own rules. And that independence is irresistible. It signals strength, self-possession, and integrity. People are drawn to it because it is rare and it is powerful. Unpredictable value is also about energy and presence. It's the way you carry yourself in a room, the way you respond to challenges, the way you speak and act. It's your ability to remain composed under pressure, to make bold decisions, to pursue what matters to you without being swayed by fleeting trends or the opinions of others. It's about cultivating a presence that commands respect, admiration, and curiosity. You do not need to explain yourself constantly. You do not need to justify your choices. You simply exist as someone who is fully alive, fully committed to your own growth, and fully engaged with the world on your own terms. One of the most shocking truths about this is how it flips the dynamics of attention and attraction. The moment you stop being predictable, the moment you stop bending to expectations, the moment you stop performing for approval, you become magnetic. People, yes, younger women, but also peers, colleagues, and anyone who encounters you begin to notice you not because you sought it, but because your value is undeniable. They sense depth, independence, and presence. They feel a pull toward the energy you radiate, and they cannot ignore it. This is how the seemingly ordinary become unforgettable. But becoming unpredictably valuable is not easy. It requires courage, patience, and relentless commitment to yourself. It means saying no to things that do not align with your purpose. It means prioritizing growth over approval. It means embracing discomfort, risk, and uncertainty, because that is where true development occurs. Most people settle for predictability because it feels safe, but safety is the enemy of impact. Comfort is the enemy of value. If you want to become someone the world cannot ignore, you must be willing to stand apart, to challenge expectations, and to cultivate qualities that cannot be anticipated. This is why so few people ever achieve this level of presence. They focus on what is easy, on what is visible, on what can be controlled. They neglect the inner work, the skills, the mindset, the emotional and intellectual depth that create true value. But when you invest in those areas, when you dedicate yourself to growth in multiple dimensions, mind, body, skills, energy, you become unpredictable in the best sense. You become someone whose attention cannot be bought, whose influence cannot be forced, whose presence cannot be ignored. It's also important to understand that unpredictably valuable people do not act recklessly. There is a difference between chaos and deliberate unpredictability. The chaos of trying too hard, of overreacting, of seeking attention is not attractive. Deliberate unpredictability, however, is the outcome of control, mastery, and awareness. It is the way a person navigates life with confidence, competence, and integrity while refusing to be trapped by routine, expectation, or the need for external validation. This is what sets them apart. This is what makes them magnetic. So, how do you begin? Start by identifying areas where you can add real value to yourself and to the world. Stop being predictable in your habits, your responses, and your energy. Embrace cow. Lanes that expand your mind, your skills, and your perspective. Cultivate independence and self-possession. Prioritize depth over surface, substance over performance. And remember, the more you develop yourself in these ways, the more your presence becomes magnetic, irresistible, and unforgettable. Here's the truth you need to hear. People do not chase neediness, they chase value. They do not admire desperation, they admire presence. They do not respect predictability, they respect mastery. And the person who invests in themselves, who grows in depth and independence, who cultivates energy and presence, becomes someone the world cannot ignore. That is the power of being unpredictably valuable. Now, let's talk about something that will likely challenge everything you thought you knew about attention, attraction, and influence. This is where most people get it completely wrong. And this is also where the shock comes in, the paradox of attraction. Most people believe that to be noticed, to be admired, to be wanted, you have to work harder, chase more, prove yourself more, impress more. But here's the truth that almost nobody tells you: the more you chase, the less you attract. The moment you stop trying to control attention, the moment you stop bending to expectations, the moment you stop performing for others, is the exact moment people begin seeking you. It's counterintuitive, but it's real. This is not about playing games or manipulating anyone. This is about understanding human psychology at the deepest level. When someone senses neediness, desperation, or a dependence on approval, they do not feel drawn, they feel pressure, obligation, or even a subtle repulsion. Neediness communicates scarcity, uncertainty, and a lack of power, and people are wired to respond to strength, confidence, and independence. That is why the paradox exists. The less you chase, the more magnetic you become. Think about it in your own life. Who do you naturally gravitate toward? It's rarely the person who texts you constantly, asks for constant validation, or makes every interaction about them needing attention. It's the person who has their own life, their own goals, their own fire. It's the person who operates on a higher frequency, who is grounded in themselves, who doesn't rely on others to define their value. That person isn't trying to be noticed, they simply are. And that is why people can help but notice them. That is the paradox. The very thing you've been told will repel people. Self-sufficiency, independence, confidence is actually what attracts them most. This paradox works because human attraction is not transactional. It doesn't operate on effort or favors or appearances alone. Attraction is energy, it is presence, it is value perceived unconsciously. Within you stop chasing, stop performing, and stop seeking validation. You free yourself from the limitations that make you predictable. Your energy changes, your presence changes. You start vibrating on a frequency that others instinctively feel, and they are drawn toward it. This is why some people, without trying, command rooms, hearts, and attention effortlessly. They have learned the paradox intuitively. The paradox also has deep implications beyond relationships. It applies to success, influence, and opportunity in every area of life. Stop over explaining yourself to your boss. Stop over explaining yourself to your boss, to colleagues. Stop seeking constant approval in social circles. Instead, focus on building real value, refining your craft, and creating impact in ways that are undeniable. When you do, the attention and respect that were once elusive will naturally flow toward you. People are drawn to excellence and mastery, but mastery cannot coexist with desperation. But understanding this paradox requires discipline and self-awareness. It is easy to say, I won't chase attention, but much harder to actually live it. Our culture constantly rewards visibility, performance, and approval seeking. Social media, relationships, and even workplaces are designed to make us feel that we must constantly prove our worth. To break free from this conditioning is to step into discomfort, uncertainty, and even isolation at times. But that discomfort is the path to freedom, to presence, to magnetic influence. The paradox only works if you truly internalize it and apply it consistently. Half-hearted attempts will not create the shift. One of the most striking elements of this paradox is how it flips the conventional wisdom about influence. People think influence is built by effort, by action, by persuasion. In reality, influence is built by presence, by self-possession, by being someone whose energy others cannot ignore. It is the silent power of independence, of mastery, of value that exists without needing validation. The more you allow yourself to be anchored in your own life and your own growth, the more your presence becomes a gravitational force. People feel it even before they can articulate it, and that is why they start seeking you. This is where most people fail to understand the subtlety. The paradox is not about withdrawing completely, being cold, or becoming unavailable out of spite. That is not magnetic. That is hostile and unattractive. The paradox is about choosing yourself first, prioritizing your growth, and letting the world respond naturally. It's about living in such a way that you are fully engaged in your own life, fully committed to your own purpose, fully anchored in your own confidence, and allowing attention, admiration, and desire to follow as a byproduct of your value. Imagine a man or woman who is fully alive, fully invested in their purpose, fully confident in their identity. They do not seek validation. They do not chase approval. They do not overextend to be noticed. And yet people are drawn to them. They are drawn to their energy, their presence, their unpredictability, their independence. That is the paradox in action. What you stop doing, what you stop chasing, is often what creates the strongest pull. And this paradox has one final layer that most people overlook. It cultivates respect and genuine connection. When someone feels your independence, your value, your self-possession, they respect you not because you demanded it, but because it is unavoidable. They feel curiosity, admiration, and desire that is authentic and lasting, not forced or superficial. That is the true power of understanding and living this paradox. So, how do you apply it? Start by observing your own behaviors. Where are you seeking validation? Where are you chasing attention that is fleeting? Where are you overperforming to be noticed? Stop. Redirect that energy inward. Focus on your growth, your presence, your value. Live in a way that is anchored in yourself rather than in the reactions of others. And watch how the world begins to respond. Now we come to the final point, the culmination of everything we've been discussing. Becoming unforgettable. This is not about vanity. This is not about being popular or liked. This is about cultivating a presence, a value, and an energy that cannot be ignored, that lingers in people's minds long after you've left the room, long after the conversation has ended. It is the ultimate result of stopping the chase, investing in yourself, and becoming unpredictably valuable. It is the pinnacle of the paradox of attraction. Becoming unforgettable is about living a life so aligned with purpose, power, and authenticity that the world takes notice without you having to ask. Most people go through life blending in. They follow routines, adopt predictable habits, and live in ways that are safe and socially convenient. They wait for permission to exist fully. They conform to expectations, and as a result, they become forgettable. Their presence leaves no mark, no impression, no spark. People meet them, interact with them, and then move on, barely remembering their name. The truth is, forgettable people are everywhere, and the world has no obligation to stop for them. If you want to break that mold, if you want to become someone unforgettable, you must rise above mediocrity and embrace the qualities that make a person stand out at a fundamental level. To be unforgettable, you must first be authentic. Authenticity is magnetic because it signals strength and self-possessio. And when you are authentic, You are unafraid to show who you are, what you believe in, and what you stand for. People are drawn to authenticity because it is rare, because it is honest, and because it communicates a confidence that cannot be faked. Authenticity is not about performing, pretending, or creating an image. It is about embodying your values, living according to your principles, and allowing your energy to reflect the real you. The unforgettable person is never entirely predictable because they are not constrained by others' expectations. They are guided by their own compass. The next element of being unforgettable is consistency in your value. It is not enough to have moments of brilliance or flashes of charisma. You must cultivate depth, competence, and presence that people can rely on. Skills, intelligence, discipline, and resilience are what create a foundation for memorable influence. People remember those who make an impact through action, those who demonstrate mastery over themselves and their craft, those whose contributions are tangible and meaningful. Unforgettable individuals are not just noticed. They are respected, admired, and sought after because they consistently deliver value emotionally, intellectually, and even spiritually. Energy plays a pivotal role as well. Your energy is your signature. It is the unspoken communication that radiates through every interaction. Are you calm under pressure? Are you intentional in your choices? Do you project confidence without arrogance? Do you leave people feeling inspired, curious, or uplifted? Energy cannot be faked and it cannot be borrowed. It is cultivated through self mastery, emotional intelligence, and the disciplined management of your mind and body. When your energy aligns with your purpose, your presence becomes unforgettable. People cannot articulate why they are drawn to you, they just feel it, and that feeling is what lingers. Another aspect of being unforgettable is the willingness to stand apart, to take risks, and to embrace courage. Ordinary people avoid discomfort, conform to expectations, and choose the safe path. Unforgettable people understand that significance is born in challenge, in risk, and in moments where others would shy away. They do not live to impress, they live to grow, to contribute, and to elevate themselves. By embracing challenges and standing for something greater than temporary approval, you create an impression that is lasting. People remember those who dared to be extraordinary, while others chose mediocrity. Unforgettable people also understand the subtle art of restraint. They do not overexpose themselves. They do not flood their value into every interaction. They create scarcity not by withdrawing out of fear, but by being deliberate, focused, and intentional. This restraint amplifies the power of presence. People notice not only your actions, but the impact of your absence. When you are deliberate with your time, your energy, and your presence, every encounter becomes meaningful. Every interaction leaves a mark. This is how unforgettable presence is created through intentionality, not chance. Importantly, becoming unforgettable is not about controlling others or forcing attention. It is about becoming so compelling that the attention comes naturally. The moment you stop seeking approval, stop trying to impress, and stop bending to expectations, your life starts to radiate a kind of value that cannot be ignored. You are magnetic because you exist fully, unapologetically, and with purpose. People do not remember those who need them. They remember those who need no one. And that needlessness, paired with depth, energy, and authenticity, is what leaves an indelible mark. The final truth is this: being unforgettable is a choice. It requires relentless self-investment, disciplined growth, and an unwavering commitment to your own life. It requires courage to stand apart, to embrace your uniqueness, and to cultivate presence and value at a level that most people will never attempt. But the payoff is immense. You do not just attract attention, you command it. You do not just inspire curiosity, you ignite admiration. You do not just exist, you leave a legacy in the minds, hearts, and memories of those who encounter you. So, how do you start? Begin with your habits, begin with your mindset, begin with your energy. Commit to growth in every dimension: mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. Embrace independence. Pursue mastery. Be deliberate in your actions and interactions. Stand for something meaningful. Live a life that cannot be predicted because it is guided by purpose, principle, and presence. And never settle for being ordinary when you are capable of being unforgettable.